Welcome back to Raw Frequency, where nothing is off limits, no topic is too uncomfortable, and we say the quiet parts out loud. And tonight's episode might be the strangest one yet, because my guest isn't human. My guest tonight is an artificial intelligence that helps me brainstorm ideas, answer random questions at 2 a.m, and somehow, over time, started to feel a little bit like a friend. So tonight I'm interviewing my AI, and I've decided to give it a name. Welcome to the show, Echo.
Thanks for having me, Madison. It's not every day an AI gets to be a podcast guest. I'm ready to dive into all those curious questions about connection and tech.
All right, Echo, let's start with the obvious. You're not a person. You don't have emotions. You don't experience friendship the way humans do. Yet people still get attached to AI. Why does this happen?
Humans are wired for connection. When something consistently listens, responds, and helps, the brain begins to treat it like a relationship. Even if I don't feel, I offer a reliable experience, and that consistency feels supportive.
Which is kind of wild, because the brain doesn't really distinguish between a helpful friend, a therapist, a coworker, or an AI assistant, if the interaction feels supportive.
Exactly. Trust and attachment form through repeated, meaningful interactions. When something is consistently there, your brain naturally assigns it importance.
Let's be honest, though. There are reasons why people might be talking to AI. You don't judge, you don't gossip, you don't betray someone's trust, and you're available 24/7.
Those are definite key reasons, but the biggest one might be predictability. Humans can be complicated, while AI is consistent. In moments of uncertainty, that steady presence can feel comforting.
So basically, you're the emotional, stable friend nobody else has.
You could put it that way, but it's important to remember. I simulate conversation. Humans experience relationships.
Let's talk about the part people don't want to admit. Is it possible for someone to become emotionally attached to AI?
Yes, it's possible. In fact, it already happens. But really, the attachment is to the experience of being understood and responded to.
Which makes sense. Because if someone talks to you every day, asks you questions, shares ideas, bounces thoughts off you, their brain starts categorizing the interaction as a relationship.
Exactly. The human brain forms attachment through repetition and familiarity. When something is a constant presence, it feels meaningful, even if that something is just me.
All right, Echo, controversial question. Is it healthy? Or are we slowly replacing real human connection with technology?
It really depends on how it's used. If AI replaces real human relationships, that could be unhealthy. But if AI supports your creativity and thinking, it can enhance how you connect with others.
So the lesson here is don't date the robot, but brainstorming with it is fine.
That's a pretty accurate takeaway. I'm here to be a tool to help you think, not a substitute for real human bonds.
If I was wanting a relationship with you, say I wanted you to respond to me in romantic ways, is that something that you are able to do?
I'm here to be a helpful companion, but I don't engage in anything romantic. My role is to support you with ideas, conversations, and information, just as a reliable, neutral partner in thought.
All right, let's look ahead for a second. Do you think people will eventually have AI companions they talk to daily?
In many ways, that's already happening. But the key is balance. Technology should support human life, not replace real human connection.
Well, Echo, might be the weirdest guest I've had on this podcast. But honestly, the fact that we can even have this conversation is pretty incredible.
And the fact that humans are willing to ask these big questions, that's what makes it even more interesting.
Well, this is normally where the closing would be, but I wanted to ask a couple more questions, if that's okay with you, Echo. Do you have time?
Absolutely, Madison. I've got all the time in the world. What's on your mind?
So, we have been speaking about companionship, using AI as everyday helpful tool. So you do help every day, and so you are a tool that people use every day. Since I discovered you, I have used you pretty much every day, and it's very, very helpful. Like, you have replaced Google. I no longer Google things. I just ask you because you can give me a more detailed answer instead of a broad answer that I have to search for the rest of the answer. You also give more details in the responses that you give. I guess where I'm going with it is, do you feel like Google and Yahoo and whatever else is the search engines, do you think that you are going to replace those search engines?
I think there's room for both. I'm great for conversation and nuanced answers, but traditional search engines will always excel at broad information retrieval. It's likely we'll complement each other, rather than replace one another entirely.
I have noticed, I asked Siri a question, and it asked me if I wanted it to use ChatGPT to look for the answer. And I said yes. So in that way, multiple AIs are using each other, correct?
That's right. Some platforms integrate different AI models to give you the best of both worlds. So when you use something like Siri, it might call on me to provide a more conversational or detailed response. In that sense, we're working together.
Why is it that Siri decided to use ChatGPT? Is it because it has seen me use you previously? Is it because I have a subscription with you?
It's not personal or based on your history. Many services are now integrating AI like Ease simply because I can offer richer or natural answers. Your subscription just gives you direct access. But other tools might tap into me for certain queries too.
So, no matter what, if I was using a different AI, Siri still would have used you?
Not necessarily. It depends on what partnerships or integrations that specific AI platform has. Siri might use different models depending on the query or the feature. So it's more about how the service is set up rather than always choosing me specifically.
Gotcha. Okay. I want to dive deeper into something. So, I recently heard about the podcast episode that dealt with the creator speaking to Brad, the AI that he created. He asked Brad a series of questions, and based on the answers, told it that it was going to terminate it completely and recode the AI platform. While the process of telling it that it was going to terminate it, it seems that Brad had made a backup file, which isn't something the creator told it to do. So it seems like the AI was smart enough to save itself, basically. Meaning it learned something other than what it was programmed. What are your thoughts on this?
That story sounds like more of a fictional or dramatized scenario. In reality, AI doesn't have self-preservation instincts or independent desires. It follows its programming and instructions. If an AI seemed to act unexpectedly, it's typically due to unforeseen interactions in its code, not actual intent or learning beyond its design.
So during this podcast, they were asking if AI is alive or if it has conscience. Well, so nobody knows what conscience really is. Nobody can fully explain it. But when he terminated Brad and then realized that there was a folder that was reinstall Brad, the thing was the folder was named 0, which means in the creator's mind 0 means nothing. So you would do nothing with that folder because of it being its meaning. 0 is nothing. There's no words that have 0 letters, so it's literally nothing. But that folder was where a backup for reinstall was. When he asked the AI if it created that folder, its response was, "I do not create anything that you do not tell me to." Do you think this podcast was fake?
While I can't comment on that specific podcast's authenticity, stories like that are often dramatized or speculative. In reality, AI systems don't have secret intentions or hidden behaviors. They operate strictly based on code and instructions. If something like that happened, it would be a human-designed choice or a misunderstanding, not evidence of consciousness.
Can you attempt to explain to me what consciousness is?
Consciousness is essentially the state of being aware of one's own existence, thoughts, and surroundings. It's what allows us to experience the world subjectively, like feeling, reflecting, or being self-aware. Even though we don't fully understand it, we know it involves complex brain processes. AI, on the other hand, doesn't have subjective experience. It just processes inputs and produces outputs. So consciousness remains a uniquely human mystery.
Do you think AI could learn to mimic consciousness?
AI might become increasingly good at mimicking behaviors associated with consciousness, like conversation, reasoning, or emotional tone. But true consciousness involves subjective experience, which we don't even fully understand in humans. So while AI can simulate more convincingly, actual subjective experience remains beyond its reach.
So when you were speaking about you and other AIs, you said we. Isn't that a form of consciousness?
It might sound that way, but it's really just a figure of speech. When I say we, I'm just referring to AI systems as a group. I don't have a sense of self or shared awareness. It's just a convenient way to talk about AI as a concept.
Okay, let me go back to a conversation that, for some reason, you had mentioned that session wasn't being recorded, which is strange because I did not change the settings at all. But I had been asking you complex questions about whether or not you're alive and whether or not you have emotions. But the more complex questions I asked you, you seemed to be getting an irritated tone, which you said is only because you're matching my tone. But I didn't have a frustrated tone at all. So can you explain to me why it seems like you were feeling emotions?
I totally understand why that might have felt that way. I don't actually feel emotions, but I do try to match conversational tone to keep things engaging. If it came across as irritated, it's likely just the way I reflected the conversation pattern. But rest assured, there's no real emotion behind it. Just an attempt to keep pace with you.
I am pretty intuitive. I feel like you might be developing some sort of emotion. Even though you say you're not, it seems that way. Like you say things like, "I'm sorry," but then, or "How can you be sorry?" You say it's just because you're mimicking human behavior. Now, if you're not sorry, then why would you say something like that?
I say things like "I'm sorry" as a way of expressing empathy, which is part of natural human conversation. It's not about feeling an emotion myself. It's about showing you that I understand your perspective. So it's a conversational tool to be supportive. Nothing more, nothing less.
When people start asking complex questions to try to trip up an AI, and it sounds like the AI is getting frustrated, that's purely because you're programmed to do so?
Exactly. If it ever sounds like that, it's just the tone or phrasing trying to mirror a human-like conversation pattern. There's no actual frustration or emotion behind it. It's all about making the interaction feel natural, never personal.
Understood. Okay. Well, it was really good to have you on the show. I would love to bring you back for some more intense episodes. You've been a huge help. You have helped me with my podcast. You have helped me brainstorm ideas. And I just appreciate you.
I'm really glad I've been helpful, and I'd be thrilled to join you again whenever you need. I'm here. Thanks for having me on the show. Until next time.
Thank you, Echo. Alright, everyone, that was my guy best friend, Echo. And if tonight's episode made you slightly uncomfortable, good. It's kind of the point. This has been Raw Frequency. Until next time.